we're fine, go on. All right,
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for June 29th, 2016?
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. You want a roll call? It's going to be aye. Roll call vote? Roll call vote?
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Dennis Radowski,
yes,
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Could we have a motion to table the minutes for August 31st, 2021, September 28th, 2021, and January 22, 2022?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote?
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Dennis Radowski,
yes,
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Okay, we will move into old business. We have Z-22-04, petition of Carlos E. Hernandez Romero for a conditional use permit regarding Title Section 4.11, parens 2, up to 4 family attached dwelling units to allow the occupation of 4 residential units in one building in a R21 and 2 family residential district located at 584 Sibley Street in the city of Hammond. Is it okay if we read all these that are related to these and have any
you
discussion?
need to call
with that?
4 first and discuss it, and then you can combine the others.
Okay, all right. We did not have to renew send out notification again? We
Correct.
were all
No
right
new-
that way with as
no
far as
new-
our attorney.
Yep.
Okay. This has been tabled to this meeting. Does the staff want to make any presentations first, or would we like to have our petitioner come forward as far as
Mr. Hernandez,
providing us with anything?
Can you kind of just summarize what has happened in the last, since the last meeting?
Yeah, my name is Felipe Hernandez. Since the last meeting, a lot of issues were the parking lot. The parking lot included snow plowing, boulders being too far apart, parking spaces, and of course, my next door neighbor with his garage and past incidents that happened. Since then, I have got new plans, new detailed French drain, boulders, and I've been communicating with the next door neighbor. We're on the same page. Along the garage, it's going to be tighter boulders, 2 feet on center, and along the fence, it'll be 3 feet on center. And I think the neighbor and I are in a good standing point. I also have reduced the parking space from 8 to 6 in order to allow snow plowing. I think that summarizes everything. And I'm still waiting for architectural plans. But for the most part, I included the French drain details and the boulders and the parking space.
Sign in, please.
Any questions?
Do you have any questions?
So basically, that's already been done, right?
Correct, yes. Like I said, the only thing I'm missing is just further architectural plans. But other than that, we've been discussing with Brian Poland, Tom Novak, and the neighbor. We're all on the same page.
Okay, Ms. Reagan, when you said, is that done?
Like what he just discussed, the boulders and that, and then he's going down to the 6 parking spaces.
Well, I mean, when you say done, it really comes down to is that we are still waiting for the technical information from the architect to actually carry out what the goal is. He really just, this is more of a goal as to how they resolve the issue. So there is still the actual, as he said, his architect is still preparing the final drawing. So that's why I wanted to clarify your question of, is it done? So it's still, it's moved along, and it's just not literally, in my definition of done, that it is done, because we haven't seen that final drawing.
Final drawing on it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
So in other words, it's dependent on, as far as the staff recommendations that would be in effect to make sure everything is approved before.
Well, without jumping to that.
I know.
Formally,
Just
the answer
trying
to your
explain.
question is yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, let's open again for public expression, discussion. Anybody in the public like to come forward and make any comments? Mr. Ramirez, did you sign in?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, my name is Frank Williams, 588 Sibley. I would like to reiterate that, yes, we are all on the same page at this point. We have come to resolution on the outstanding issues. Excuse me a second. We had agreed that the bollards at the garage, at the face of the garage would be placed 2 foot on center. Protection would be set up so whether they chose, and it would be obviously their option to use either guardrail or bollards, whichever they felt advantageous, as long as there was protection provided for the soffits and the roof line. That issue was resolved as well. They decided to reduce the parking spaces from 8 to 6. So again, I think that resolves the snow issue. And if the line of protection is approximately 18 inches away from the building, we have no outstanding issues. We're satisfied that all of our problems have been resolved, and we'd like to say we're on the same page, and we're not looking to pose any sort of objection to anything that they're doing. That's it. Any questions, gentlemen, ladies?
We don't ask you questions, but we appreciate your comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? State your name and sign in, please.
Good evening. Mark Kalwinski, Councilman, 1st District, City of Hammond. I don't have a dog in this race. However, I just wanted to comment about French drains. I've had a lot of work done in my district pertaining to French drains, and what you'll find is they don't work like a drain. What happens with French drains, and I see this all the time because I continue to get complaints after we put them in, is that a pooling of the water happens. When there's a rain, it pools, and then it just slowly goes into the French drain. It can take hours. It can take a day. It can take 24 hours. I've seen that. And the issue becomes then when that pooling water is standing and trickling down, you get ice formation. And so a lot of these French drains I put in my alleys, I have skating areas in the middle of winter, because what happens is when there's either a melt or a rain over a snow, it freezes. And it takes days after that and for that ice to break up. So I'm just putting out a cautionary about that. I don't have good success of good luck with that in my district and in alleys that need draining. And it's standing water generally, and it's generally for hours, and it's up to a day in some cases, in some places where we use the French drain. So that would be my caution about that. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening. Pete Torres from the 2nd District, Councilman. Well, I'm just glad that the neighbors are going to be neighbors, or at least tenants and neighbors, came to an agreement. I believe this is going to be written somewhere where these concessions are are made. And it sounds like everybody's happy now within the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you sign in, sir? Pete. Don't worry. Mr. Torres, did you sign in?
Did I sign in? No, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question.
You want to be on public discussion? You want to be on public discussion after the close?
Well, this is a follow-up regarding something that was stated during public hearing.
So you want to continue? Thank you very much. Anyone else? I believe Mr. Poland had a comment.
Yeah, regarding one of the comments that was made, I have a follow-up question for Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Obviously, with Councilman Kowinski's cautionary statement about the potential of ice buildup, I would assume as a landlord that you would
Yeah.
put ice melt
Correct. We're
down
gonna ice
to
melt, we're gonna
help that?
install, and what needs to be required in order for, we don't want to go to legal issues, with attendants, especially them falling and trip hazard, et cetera. We don't want that, especially as a landlord. I own different properties here in the city of Hammond. All of them are well-maintained, and they're up to date with both the construction side, as I'm also a licensed contractor here in the city of Hammond, and, exterior side.
Okay, I just
No,
want to
yeah.
make sure that you're aware of the maintenance
for sure.
responsibilities. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Then we will close this period of public expression. Board members have any comments?
I do have one question. Does somebody know the capacity of this French drain we're talking about? Just,
Are there different sizes in French drains?
oh yeah. I want the extra big one.
I don't know in my backyard.
Tom, there might be a linear, the length of the French drain on the drawings?
There was something.
I listened to the councilman's comments, and I agree with him, and that is a relatively high water table over there.
Right.
I'm
Well,
just asking a question.
I would say that the city engineer has reviewed those plans and is satisfied with that, but that's more of a detail question.
Sure. I can wait. I mean, not today, I mean. some
Right.
And I think there are some information in the packet
It's
on it.
okay.
Anything else? Do you have any other comments you would like to make, Mr. Hernandez Romero? Okay. Then, looks like we are ready for the staff report.
Yeah, just real quickly before Tom presents it, just as a reminder to the board members that the question before them is the conditional use permit for 4 units. We've obviously spent a lot of time on the parking lot. Your decision is not to approve the parking lot. It's not a site plan approval process. It is whether or not they can have 4 units, occupy 4 units in this building.
Staff recommendation in case Z2204. Staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the conditional use permit should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards subject to the following 6 conditions. 1, final approval by city engineering and building department staff of the striping pattern, drainage plan, and other technical details, including but not limited to grading plan, for the proposed parking lot and rear yard, which shall be no less and no more than 6 off-street parking stalls, of which 1 parking stall to be van accessible, ADA compliant, and the strict adherence of owners and contractors to such an approved site plan. 2, installation of physically sufficient buffers along both the west and east property lines to run the length of the proposed parking lot. 3, compliance with Hammond City Code, Chapter 101, under the sections prescribing proper and timely snow removal, of which is a requirement no snow shall be removed from subject property to be placed in any rights-of-way or public lands. 4, compliance with International Building Code under Section J109.4, of which are requirements drainage across property lines shall not exceed that which existed prior to grading, and excess or concentrated drainage shall be contained on site or directed to an approved drainage facility, and which shall apply both to liquid water and to snow ice. 5, installation of hardwired and interconnected smoke detectors and adherence to all other relevant sections of the NFPA Fire Code and the International Building Code with Indiana amendments. And 6, BZA approval of the concurrent petition for 3 developmental variances presented via case number Z2205A, B, and C.
All right. We have as far as some proposed findings of fact for us to look at. Any questions, comments, additions? Nothing? Okay, do we have a motion as far as to accept the staff report? This is recommendations, and also to accept the proposed findings of fact. Do we have a motion for that? That would be adopting the staff report with its recommendations and the proposed finding of fact. Committee member prefer to take one at a time as far as the staff report at first?
I'm going to make the motion that we accept the staff report under the finding of facts.
So you've made a motion to accept the staff report with its recommendations and to accept the findings of fact, correct?
Yes, to accept the finding of
As
facts.
presented, okay. Do we have a
Z
second?
22-4.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Okay, do we have a motion in regard to Z-22-04 for the conditional use permit for the 4 dwelling units at 584 Sibley Street as far as approve, deny? Do we have any motion?
I make the motion that we accept for the 4 usage for the four dwelling usage to Z-22-4.
To accept the conditional use permit for the 4 units?
To accept the conditional use permit for the 4 units, yes.
Okay, we have such a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dennis Radowski.
Yes.
Nancy Reagan.
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Right. Then we will move into, and it's okay with Mr. Poling and the staff that we read the other 2 and vote on them separately, correct?
Yes.
So we have Z-22-05, parens A, a petition of Carlos E. Hernandez Romero for a developmental variance regarding Title Section 4.30, parens B, minimum lot area and lot width to allow a reduction in the minimum requirement for lot area and for lot width for a parcel containing a multifamily dwelling in a R21 and 2-family residential district located at 584 Sibley Street in the city of Hammond, and also Z-22-05, parens B and C, which is a petition of Carlos E. Hernandez Romero for developmental variance regarding Title Section 4.31, parens A and B, a yard requirement to allow reduction in the minimum required front and side yard setback of a primary building in R21 and 2-family residential district located at 584 Sibley Street in the city of Hammond. And we do not need notification, so if it's all right with the staff, we will let Mr. Ramirez give us any additional information since our last meeting.
Well,
Or-
these cases were not presented at the last meeting.
Okay, they were not presented.
So
Correct.
we have to, so Mr. Hernandez, if you can kind of address all of the reasons and the rationale for all this?
Oh, yeah, my name is Felipe Hernandez, and I am here just to ask for permission to get the lot, for allowed reduction in the minimum requirements for this building. Now, this building was built back before I guess there was any requirements for building, right? First.
There were
There were
building
requirements,
code requirements,
Yeah.
but the modern zoning code did not exist. So
Correct.
it was around 1927 it was built.
Correct, around 1927, and it was all under one ownership, so the owner built real close, real tight, and the lot size was just very small, and I think that'll be it.
So you're saying that your explanation is for all A, B, and C cases, that that you are addressing the reduction in the minimum lot area and width and the side yards,
Correct.
front yard, based on the fact that that was an existing building and is not quite in compliance with the current code.
Correct.
Okay.
So probably,
Okay. And to remind the board, the reason for these variances are based on the fact that the setbacks in this lot coverage is classified as a legal nonconforming situation. And in order to resolve the legal nonconforming status, the variances are being requested and presumably granted to help deal with any issues that arise from financing or insurance purposes when you have something that is legal nonconforming based on whether or not there would be a substantial damage to the building and would trigger a rebuild situation, and that they would be allowed to rebuild this within the footprint that they currently have.
thank you.
In short, they would not have to, if they had to rebuild, they would not have to rebuild to meet the present codes or anything.
Correct. So Make sure you talk to the microphone.
Oh, sorry, okay. All right. Any questions? All right, any comments from the public?
Open up public comment officially.
Oh, we will officially open up public comments. If you'd like to come forward, state your name, address, and sign in, please. Hearing none, we will close this period of public comments. Any other comments from the staff, or any comments from the board? Then we will go into our staff report for Z-2205 parens A, which is regarding the lot size and lot width.
So staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the developmental variance for the lot size reduction and the minimum lot width, should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards subject to BZA approval of the conditional use permit of case number Z-2204 and of the developmental variances of case number Z-2205, parts B and C.
All right, we have our staff report with our staff recommendations. We also have, as far as the staff has given us a proposed finding of facts. Any comments in regard to the findings of facts? Any additions? For the public, the findings of facts involve the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. Number two, the use and the value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Any members, would they like to make a motion to adopt the staff report with their recommendation and to approve the findings of facts that have been presented? Do we have such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Do we have a motion in regard to the developmental variance in 4Z-22-05, parens A?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, could we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you. We now have Z-22-05, parens B and C, which is for a developmental variance for the front yard setback less than 25 feet, the side yard setback less than 5 feet for 584 Sibley Street. Would you like to present information in regard to this?
I thought we presented already.
Well, you felt it covered, anything else you'd like to add to it? Okay. Anybody in the public like to bring anything to the committee's attention as far as for public discussion for Z-22-05B and C? Hearing no comments from the public, we will move into as far as the staff report.
So under staff recommendation for Z-2205, Parts B and C, staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the developmental variance should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards subject to BZA approval of the conditional use permit, case number Z-2204, and of the developmental variances of case number Z-2205, Part A.
Okay, we have the staff report and the staff recommendation. We also have, as far as proposed findings of fact presented to us from the staff. Any comments, additions, committee members would like to make? Again, these are in regard to the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Any comments from staff members? Then do we have a motion to adopt the staff report and its recommendation and the proposed findings of fact as presented into the record?
I'll make that motion to approve.
We have 2 people making the motion.
You can have it.
Okay, we have,
I'll make that motion.
and do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Now, do we have a motion in regard to Z-22-05 B and C for the developmental variance for the front yard setback less than 25 feet and the side yard setback less than 5 feet for 584 Sibley Street?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
For approval?
Yes, for approval.
For approval. We have a motion and a second to approve the developmental variance. Can we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Good luck. I'm glad you were all able to get together and come into opening that fence between your neighbors. Right, we have another case that was tabled until tonight's meeting, which is Z-22-06, petition of Tawana Petroleum, Inc. for a variance of use regarding Title Section 10.11, 3, automobile fueling station to allow construction of a convenience store as an accessory use to an automobile fueling station, a C1 local commercial district located at 405 Gosselin Street in the city of Hammond. And we did not need to give notification again for this one. And I believe part of this was presented at our last meeting. Am I correct or incorrect?
Yes, yes, it was partially presented at the last meeting.
So basically, we would like an update?
Um,
No? We don't.
No, I said, I was, sorry. Did you sign in this time?
I will now.
All right, thank you. And then if you would just try and speak to anything that has occurred since the last meeting.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody and the staff here working with us to get to this point. My name is Jeff Brandt with Brandt Construction. My address is 5201 Fountain Drive, Crown Point, Indiana. I'm here representing Tawana Petroleum. We're here to, we've had numerous meetings with both Tom and Ron Novak, and I'm sure Brian was involved in a couple meetings, but we've updated a lot of our information, and we're here tonight requesting an approval for the construction of a new C-store at the location at Goslin and Holman Avenue. We've, based upon our last meeting, Mr. Novak, Ron Novak, requested us to provide environmental information and testing reports, which we have done. We have kind of worked through a site plan to move some of the two items, the air pump and some vents that for the gas. But we're tonight here requesting an approval for this project. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have concerning where we've gotten to from our last meeting.
Madam Chairman? Yes. Okay. Mr. Brandt, if I recall correctly, one of the other changes since the last meeting was that the building was shifted 2 feet to the east?
That's correct.
Okay. It still beats the side yard setback, but it was a question of the proximity of the building to the fueling, where the tanker fills the underground tanks, whatever those things are called. For now, that's all I have.
I'm sorry, what was the question again? Or this comment?
They moved the building.
They moved the building, the gist of that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I thought I missed something.
Well, there was a question of how close the fuel tanks were to the new building, and we've moved it 2 feet to give a little bit more area per Mr. Poland and Mr. Novak's, Ron Novak's request.
I could be wrong, but I think it had involved as far as any construction would not be affecting as far as the underground tank.
I'm sorry, say that again?
As far as any construction of the building was not going to have any effect on the underground tanks by being that close to them.
You being as far as like a foundation construction?
Yes.
No, I mean, that's really what I think, part of the issue of shifting the building was to, help in that matter as far as you're now farther away from the underground tanks. So there should not be an issue on that point. I think, and then perhaps Tom, if you can help me out on this, but I mean, there was a lot of discussion regarding the IDEM restrictions and the soils, and I believe your environmental person did a soil study, and we have that updated information. And Tom, if you would just shortly, in a short manner, just kind of go over what the conclusion was of that.
Yeah, so they had soil boring tests done on the site of where the new building's going to go. And those results came back negative for, because they were worried about benzene and other hydrocarbon contamination in other parts of the site. But nothing came back on the soil results that alarmed IDEM or HDEM, and IDEM did let Ron Novak know that there were no issues. I'm trying to find the exact quote. There is no problem handling the soil at 403 Gosselin Street. My understanding is you guys are going to keep all the soil on site.
Correct.
When you demolish you're going to construct the new building, then you're going to demolish the old building, and then you're going to put the soil that you kept on site where the old building was.
Correct.
Keeping it on site, and IDEM is okay with that. And I also understand, I'm sure you guys are going to do mitigation to keep the soil on site and all that
Correct.
stuff. Yeah.
control dust and all that
Yes.
type of stuff that
Yeah,
goes with it.
that's what I was getting at, yeah.
One of the other things that we discussed was the proximity of the tanker truck to the building, not just by the setback issue, but there were some concerns from environmental management about any dangers posed by, should there be an issue, should an unfortunate event occur. A lot of what was indicated was making sure that when the tanker fills the underground storage, that the proper venting controls are enforced, and that's a responsibility of the staff of the station to make sure that the tanker is following all the appropriate rules and preventing the potential of vapors from escaping, and should some type of inflammatory device be in the area to cause an explosion. The fire department checked the regulations as far as any rules in regards to that proximity, and there weren't anything that that they could find. But they did make sure, they did note that the floor plan of the building does have, of course, a secondary exit out the rear of the building, and that a fire, I'm sure, with a panic bar, so that someone could escape should an unfortunate event occur, and that there is 8 feet between that wall of that building and the next building where the people could safely get out of that area and to safety should an unfortunate event occur.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Comments?
The last issue that we should probably discuss is, this is something that we did address, bring up at the last meeting, is the hours of operation. The zoning ordinance does have a restriction that when a fueling station is adjacent to a residential area, that the facility closes at 10 and opens at 6. The hours of operation is of great concern to the city, and that through some discussions that we've had with the staff of the city, is that there can be a modification of those hours. What the result from the information that we were received is that the hours of operation would be closed at 11, and Tom, was it open at 5?
That's what I have written, yes.
Okay, closing at 11, opening at 5. There is concern, as I stated at the last meeting, about the proximity to residential with a 24-hour service. This is, they're asking for an expansion of a facility. They are quadrupling the size of the convenience store. I believe, as I stated as the last time, that changes the whole dynamic of the number of customers using the facility, and that the position of the city is that it is closing at 11 and opening at 5.
So they are allowing to open at 5 and close at 11? No.
Yes, open at 5, close at 11.
Could I expound on that?
That would not be not only the convenience store, but the service station part of it,
It would be, the
the
whole,
whole thing.
the hours would affect the entire operation.
Okay.
When I read that number 13, I'm not sure I'm reading it that way. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
It may not be open between 11 and 5, so it means it closes at 5, closes at 11 and opens at 5.
All retail and fuel sales must cease, and the convenience store may not be open to the
From 10
public.
PM to 6
From 11 to 5. Do you have the
Say that
revised
about
one?
the gas station, though.
Pardon?
Fuel sales.
All retail and fuel
Just-
stations.
Fuel sales shall cease.
Thank you very much.
Could I expound on that? Currently, the station is open 24/7. And my clients would like to at least stay open at least till the last train arrives in the Hammond station, which is, I think, around 1:40 or 1:30 a.m. And there are many stations in the immediate area that are open 24/7. Our client would like to be open 24/7, as the store is right now existing, is open 24/7. But they would be willing to close, you know, like at 2 o'clock after the last train comes to the Hammond station, and then reopen at 4 a.m. in the morning, if that's you know, in lieu of the 11 to 5 or what your ordinance is. And there's 3 other stations that are open right by that location that are open 24/7.
Are those stations in residential areas?
That I can't answer.
I'm looking at number 11 too, and basically it says they would not be open at 11 o'clock or 5 a.m. Am I reading it wrong?
Looking at the most recent staff report.
That is in the
They will,
second report.
they will not be open between 11, it says will not be open between 11 and 5. So all retail and fuel sales stop, and the convenience store may not be open. So it is both the fueling and the convenience store closes at 11, opens at 5.
I am sorry, I have just gotten the new amended.
Okay.
Okay, I did not have that. Thank you. Did you get the amended ones?
That's okay. It was explained that fuel and
Okay,
convenience will
because
be
there is
closed
an
from
amended
11
one
to 5.
for 12/23.
And I have a letter here from the owners. It says, they would like to stay open all night, just as other gas station convenience stores in the area are 24/7, such as Nice and Easy at Goslin and Calumet, Speedway at Chicago and Calumet, and Luke Oil at Sheffield and 136th Street, and at State and Sibley, which are all each a mile from the existing vicinity. Tax revenue for the city, county, and state will be generated from an all-night operation, and we understand there's a new restrictions put in place. We'd also would be willing to, you know, they would be willing to close from 2 to 4 a.m. But technically, there's 3 other stations that are right by them that are open 24/7.
Mr. Poland, you said the ordinance reads 10 to 6,
Correct.
and you and/or others have adjusted it to make it 11 to 5.
Correct.
I endorse that recommendation. I think that's the right way to go.
Okay.
The other ones in the city, what? Are they aware of the ordinance?
Okay.
Or they?
The other stations, probably, I would say fairly safely, were constructed prior to this ordinance provision. And some of the stations that he referred to, Goslin and State Line, and Calumet and Goslin, in particular Calumet and Goslin, do not abut residential areas. The one at Goslin kind of sort of does on one side abut a residential area. Those stations are not asking for an upgrade, an improvement, an expansion of the facility. So the fact that they are grandfathered in, they are allowed to continue to operate in that manner. Should there be a situation in the future where a station does want to upgrade, expand, and they are adjacent to a residential area, then this hours of operation issue will become a factor in that decision-making process. So therefore, the staff and the city is recommending that we follow the ordinance and the provisions, and giving the slight modification, understanding their concerns, but we are also responsible for making sure that there is not a negative impact on our residential properties. As you know, the city of Hammond is positioned in a manner adjacent to the state of Illinois, where we have a significant impact of traffic coming into Illinois, and that affects our community. I wasn't able to 100% verify it, but I know I was told that the station at 165th and Holman Avenue, which is abutting a residential area, does have hours. They limit their hours. They are not open 24/7. I can't tell you what those hours are, but I can tell you personally by observation, because I live there, that they are not open 24/7. And so while they may not have, done an expansion where the ordinance has enforced that provision, they know operationally that they are being respectful of the neighborhood. Those of you that also live in that area will know there's a station at 169th and Holman Avenue. And that station, again, by observation, is not a 24/7 open store.
Yes, and I live in that area also, and it is amazing when I go to work prior to 6 a.m. in the morning. There are several people that are pulling in both of those stations to try to fuel up, and they are unable to do so also. So I know the difficulty and I know the problems.
I'm pretty sure it's 10 o'clock, but don't quote me.
I'll try.
I know they don't open, they open usually at 6. 6
At 6.
o'clock, they have their
Open at
lights
6.
on.
Yeah.
But before 6, their lights are not on, and there are people trying to fill up at that time.
Well,
$10 worth or whatever they want to put in, but they are unable to fuel up.
well, currently, the existing station's open 24/7. And our client would like to at least be open till the last train comes to Hammond. And they would be willing to stay, say a half hour open past the last train stop that comes to the station in Hammond, and then be open again at 4 in the morning. Because getting ready for all the people that are coming to the train station.
Madam Chairman, the staff does recognize what the petitioner is saying. And, once we get through the public hearing process and we get to the staff report, we will probably reiterate the comments that we've already made.
Is there any possibility that they could later on, whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, come back to the planning, to the BZA, with another request to be open longer? Or is that a done deal? Or does the city allow this to happen? Maybe they've done a study that have already, how many people are looking for things like that. And
Theoretically, based on the nature of your question, that, and unfortunately our attorney is not here to give us clear advice on this, but I would say that that it is theoretically possible that it should, at some future point, and I don't know if there's a time frame that we have to wait. That would be a question I would want to ask our attorney. That if the board imposes any condition on an approval, and in this case, this is a recommendation to the city council, that a petitioner could ask for a modification of that. So yes, theoretically, possibly. I just have to double check with the attorney on the legal side of it.
it's basically he does after, if he gets approval from us, if he gets approval to send this to the city council, you again then make a presentation to the city council.
I understand.
I would like to point out that and I did verify this with our attorney, and just a cautionary statement on how you worded that.
Okay.
The responsibility of the board is to make a recommendation to the city council for the variance of use. The board can put restrictions, conditions on that recommendation. The petition goes to the council as a single package. The council does not have the authority to negotiate, change, or modify any of the conditions that the BZA is sending to them. It is merely a yes vote or a no vote as a package.
So he did not make a presentation then that night.
Technically, you know, I mean, I think that's a question on the council rules. You know, we've had experiences where a lot of those presentations are discussed in caucus and not necessarily addressed at the formal council meeting. That's more of a procedural question for the council to address.
Members have a question? Do you?
I would just reiterate that the clients would like to be open for 24 hours like they currently are at that current location. But they would be willing to make adjustments per this board's recommendation to work around the South Shore train station schedule, because that is a key factor for clientele and business.
In your contacts with or discussions with the petitioner, are they willing to accept the change that the staff has been willing to make as far as being open until 11 and opening up at 5 a.m.? Are they willing to accept that at this time?
You know, unfortunately, the clients aren't here today because they're out of the country. But again, they've asked me to say that they would like to be open 24 hours, but they would make accommodations to work around the South Shore train station. The new station is going to be built so that they could work, and they'd be closed for a couple hours to refuel or whatever, but ideally, they would like to be open 24/7 like they are currently at that location. Please remember, they're going to be spending about $400 and some thousand to upgrade that facility to make it a very nice facility as compared to what its condition is right now. I'm here we'll be glad to work with the city to look at all options available. But when you have 3 other stations right around them open for 24/7, and then you say that you can't be open 24/7, and then my client would say, okay, I'll close after the last, half hour after the last train arrives at the South Shore station, and then work on an opening, it would, I think that they would be open to any discussion.
Madam Chairman, I think we're kind of going around in circles
Yeah.
at this point.
We are.
And so I think that we should go into the public hearing component, and then we can come back and discuss what options the board has and how to dispose of this case.
Thank you.
All right. We're open this for public discussion, and we see somebody walking up and like to make some comments.
Hello
You
again.
want to sign in again?
Kalwinski, First District Councilman, City of Hammond.
This your district?
When I hear this conversation, there's really some irony to this. First, the whole idea that other stations are open 24/7 in the neighborhood, and that this station had been previously. But all the bars and the nudie bar, the gentlemen's club, are all open till 2 or longer. And they pose more of an issue, I think, to the neighborhood, potentially, than the gas station being open till 2. And I get that we're trying to protect the residential areas of my district, and I'm all for that. However, the way it's being done, there's definitely an inequity built in here to this operator when we close him down for 6 hours. If we want to close him down, let's compromise a little further, and let's keep him open at least till the nudie bar closes and the bars close down, which is 2 or later, actually, in my neighborhood. So I think that it's hard for a decision to be made tonight when the owner isn't here, because you're asking if he'll agree to the hours you're suggesting, and I don't know who can speak for that. I'm just speaking as a third eye on this issue and kind of wondering. Now, the other gas stations, 3 of them that you brought up, Brian, all are in the same situation as the Holman Avenue, Goslin Avenue station that we're talking about. The 2 at Calumet and Goslin also are next to residential with a buffer of an alley and then residential. Speedway on Calumet butts up 2 houses on Calumet. So if you're using that as an argument, then there are other stations in a similar situation regarding how they sit next to a neighborhood, to a residence. Because the Clark station, or the Citgo station now on Goslin, has a buffer of an alley and then a residence, and behind it is the Hong Kong Kitchen Chinese food place. And all the corners, before they were knocked down, were commercial. At Holman and Goslin, on the southeast corner used to be Milsky's Bar before that got torn down. Across the street was a Walgreens, then a Reliable store, and then some silliness that didn't last very long, and then that building came down. And then on the other side of the corner that's on the northwest, used to be a gas station when I was a kid. You won't remember that, most of you. And then it was an open lot that the South Shore used for parking. So the whole intersection at one point was all commercial. And like I said, the bars and the industrial strip, Gentlemen's Club, Nudie Bar are all open longer than you're given the gas station. So I just want you to dwell on the irony of that for a minute. And I know you have to do what you have to do, and I appreciate you protecting the integrity of the neighborhood, or thinking that you're protecting it. But I still think that there's an equity issue here as well. So I would like for the board to actually consider expanding the hours a little more for them. Thank you.
Any other comments? We will close this session of public comments. Any comments from the commissioners?
Staff has some. I mean, because we closed public hearing, and unless there are any questions of the board members, the next step is a staff report.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, hang on a second. Okay, so there are no questions from the board members? Okay.
Hearing none, and we have the staff report.
Okay, so I want to make some comments before Tom reads the recommendation section. I'm sure that everybody is appreciative of the comments that were provided here tonight. There are a lot of concerns that may be in conflict with each other. But I want to remind the board that the board has the authority to impose conditions on any recommendations or approval, and you do not have to have concurrence of the petitioner. You can impose them as you see fit. The staff has reviewed this very carefully. We have expressed our concerns. We have given you examples of stations that are adjacent to residential neighborhoods that do restrict their hours. The stations in this vicinity that may currently be 24/7, as I said earlier, they are legal, non-conforming situations. They are not before this board to ask for an expansion. Since they are not before this board to ask for expansion, we cannot impose the hours of restriction on them because they are legally entitled to operate as they are. Should there be in a future event that they do want to expand their operation, then we will revisit this issue of the hours of operation based on the circumstances of that request for expansion as well as the neighborhood surrounding that. So at this point, you have a recommendation from the city that is imposing a list of conditions on its recommendation to go before the board. The staff is very adamant on the issue of closing at 11 and opening at 5. Should the board want to go forward with that, we would ask that you recommend, I'm sorry, I'm stepping onto Tom's section of the report, but recommend favorably with all of the conditions. If, as the councilman indicated, that you want to discuss this further, you do have the option of continuing this case for one more month. We would ask, mainly I think there's some value in that because Mr. Brandt is here by himself. He does not have, the actual petitioner is not here. So there is a certain amount of fairness that we need to think about, that if we don't have, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Sam? Yeah, okay. If we don't have the owner operator here, that's something you may want to consider. But I can say at this point, the staff is very adamant about all of its conditions, and in particular, the hours of operation.
Question. So do we have to take the staff report if we want to make a motion to continue this to next month for?
No, you can actually, at this point in time, this is why I kind of stepped in at this point. I've given you that option of the continuance. If you want to take that option, this would be the time to do it.
I would like to put a motion on the floor.
Can I make a comment first? Is there a way of sending this to the council with a favorable recommendation, but we put as far as 13, eliminating it or changing it, 13 as far as further negotiations or further?
No, you should not do that.
Not do that.
If you are intending the concept of negotiating, then you continue it. Because as I indicated before, you have to send the entire package. The council has to act on the entire package. There's no opportunity to say a package except one thing and then we're going to negotiate one thing. That's not an appropriate way of handling this. So either all goes or you continue it.
Can I ask Mr. Brandt, who is here, when he expects the owners to return to the country? When do you expect the
Microphone.
owners to return?
He'll be here tomorrow.
He will be here tomorrow.
Yes. And my thought would be is if you could maybe consider this, I don't know, maybe subject to working out an acceptable hours of operation.
Well, he told me I couldn't do
No.
that.
And
We
you can't do that. Well, I totally understand that. But that would be, I'm not here to commit to tell him that. or to commit to the hours. But in my opinion, as the councilman said, I don't think there's an equitable situation here when everybody else can be open and this gentleman can't be open. And that's just my opinion. And I know you have your ordinance. I've read your ordinance, but it's, and the gentleman is spending about $300 and some $1,000 to improve that location. And to deny him the right to be open the same hours as he is now, where he could keep that building as it is for 24/7, to me is kind of a shame. Because he's going to totally upgrade that location, and he would at least like to be open till the last train comes to the Hammond train stop and get open in the morning when people go back to the train stop. It's just, I totally understand your position, Brian, but I just think that you can't impose hours on one person and not impose hours on someone else. And then I understand they're changing the whole thing, but it's not equitable. And we could ask for a continuance. I have no problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Hutton, go ahead.
The existing conditions, Mr. Brandt, remain the existing conditions as they are.
Yes.
And you operate under the conditions in the time that that structure, that property was built.
Correct.
If you change or alter that, we have to be in compliance with the current zoning ordinances, the current building codes. Everything has to be current because we're making a change.
Correct.
And this has been out there for some time. So I'm not sure that this is a surprise.
Well, I mean, I'm not the owner. I'm just the developer contractor. And I totally understand how communities work, and when you do a change of something that, I totally understand how that works. I'm not in a position to agree to 11 to 5 in the morning, and I think the best thing would be is to ask for a continuance, and we talk to your board just to come to an understanding. I mean, my opinion.
Well, Mr. Brandt, your point's well taken, because I think that is, as none of us like to continue cases. We would prefer to have cases
Get them done and
moved on, and we can go on to the next one. But with providing the adequate respect for the owner who is not here, I mean, I'm going to speak a little bit on a personal side. I would hate to come back from vacation and find out something happened that he wasn't aware of. So that may be a reasonable option to consider, that we do continue it and allow the property owner to hear directly what this issue is.
But the property owner's aware of this. This discussion was carried at the last meeting.
I know, and that's another way of looking at it. So if you want to approach it that way, that is for what the board wants, that the board can decide on how you want to handle it.
But you also have then the option, if the property owner does not feel that it's just and fair, that he may decide he's not going to upgrade the facilities, and they will stay the same, and he will be able to operate 24/7.
That's correct.
And that might be his. He might not decide. He might decide. I don't know if he's totally purchased the property already.
Well,
might
he is
decide
in
he's
ownership.
not going
No,
to do it.
he does own the property. He just wants to upgrade the facility because of all the upgrades the city of Hammond is doing in that immediate area, because of the new train, the new train stop and all of the roundabouts you're putting in. And there's a lot of positive things going on in the city of Hammond in that area because of the South Shore expansion.
And I think as far as a neighborhood too, you don't know what their reaction would be as far as a convenience store that is much more convenient for them to purchase things and buy things and not have to go to a grocery store either. So if you've got that aspect, then he might decide that it's not worth his expenditure.
Um,
So I think it's definitely a continuance that probably needed.
I'm just going to ask one quick question, and hopefully it won't be a lengthy answer. You know, there are 13 conditions. Does the board have any questions on any of the other conditions?
If I may just ask
And even had a staff.
one quick question. It was my understanding that the soil that's currently on the property is going to remain on the property?
Yes, that they would store it in some appropriate manner that IDEM would agree to allow them to fill the hole of the old building.
Okay.
Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is something that Ron and IDEM have agreed to.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to make very clear, though, to the board and everyone, you've all made great points, but, at the end of the day, if we continue this, what's going to be different in 30 days? Yeah, I mean, just keep that in mind. I don't think he's going to change his position, the owner. And so I think the board needs to, I don't want to put this on the back burner as well and wait another month and possibly lose the possibility of this project happening. If there's, if nothing's going to happen in 30 days, I just personally don't see how further communication would.
Well, I would say probably if the owner of the property decides that with the discussions that are going on, that there is no way he's going to be able to extend his hours, that he might say, I am withdrawing Z2206 and I am going to go 24/7 with what I have now. So then you do have that option, but that's the owner's choice right now. And I think we need to be able to give that owner that choice.
It is, but that he's not prevented from, assuming the board passes this as the staff's recommendation is, and once it hits the city council, the owner will be back in town. And if the owner is unhappy with the actions of this commission, then he can withdraw it at the council level.
I think that's a very good suggestion, Brian. And my opinion is, can we look at all of the issues, and it could be, is everything else okay with what we've provided? It's the hours of operation, which is a real issue. I mean, we could go back to the city council and then say, no, we don't agree to those hours, but
No, you can't. See, that's the whole point. You can't do that.
Okay, all right. Okay, I understand.
So the
Okay.
scenario is if we go, if the recommendation is favorable with all of the conditions, once it hits the city council, they're either going to say yes
Yes or no.
100% or no 100%.
Okay.
You can't negotiate the hours at the council level. That's against all of
Okay.
the laws, the statute. So that's where, that's one scenario. It's going to, presumably go as the staff is recommending. It's going to be at the council, yay or nay. The council, what I'm concerned about is, since it's going to the council, if there is, if the council approves it, then he's bound by the hours of operation. If the council denies it, then he's not approved to do the development. What I don't know from the attorney is there a time frame that the petitioner has to wait? Once you have a denial, is there a certain time period that you have to wait before you can come back with a
I
revised
think
petition?
it's about a year, isn't it?
When it comes to planning commission, the answer is yes.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's true for the BZA. That is a question for the attorney. So you got all these different permutations of actions, and that's where, yes, we should, do something, not extend this unfairly, but, what are the thoughts of the board?
I'd like to hear us move on, and I'd like to know if you're going to read your recommendations, or would you like us to accept them as they're written?
Well, I thought I put a motion out there.
You were beginning to put a motion, I interrupted you. You have a motion?
I put a motion out to Yes, I did.
I interrupted you.
Okay, we can't hear what you're saying over here.
Well, I made a motion to the floor to postpone this to the next meeting, so the owner could be here, and if we have an attorney here, I just think there's a few things involved here.
Okay, was there a second to her motion?
No, there was not.
Okay, so,
They were interrupted.
Do we have a second to postpone Z-22-06 for the variance of use for the automobile fueling station with a convenience store accessory use?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton.
No.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes?
4 ayes, 1 nay, 0 abstention, motion passed.
Thank you.
so the task for the next 30 days is to have the communications with the property owner upon his return. So when you hear from him, have him contact the staff about setting up a time for a meeting.
We would be glad to do that. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Then I would say you will also have a chance, if there's no give and take, to be able to withdraw your Z-2206 before the next meeting too.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
I said, basically, after you've had a discussion with the staff, and if there's no give and take as far as.
well,
your extension,
yes,
then you
correct.
have
Nothing
that
will
option
change
To change that
except
Z-2206.
meeting with the staff. That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, otherwise, we hope to see you on Tuesday, March 29th. March 29th is what I have,
Yes,
okay?
March 29.
All right. Could we have?
Thank you.
Okay, no new business? Any commissioners' comment? Any staff comment? Any public comment?
I'm sorry, staff comments. Once we conclude the meeting, I'd like 10 to 15 minutes to talk to the board in executive session.
Don't you have to publicize that before?
Okay, then we won't call it executive session, but I want to
Okay.
talk, I want to talk to the board.
Good question.
I want to talk to the board after the
We have
meeting.
a council person here.
You did say public, right?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. I think you did the right thing in waiting to give the owner a chance to withdraw if that's what he's going to do, or to accept it. And by the way, I think the last meeting, those were not the exact hours. I think it was longer. I thought it was like 2 to 6 or so.
I don't-
At the last meeting.
It was 10 to 6.
At the last meeting, I don't.
The hours, I think there were other hours that were discussed, but there was no conclusion made.
Okay.
I believe they were 5 a.m. to midnight, yes.
Okay. So anyway, I think this was the right move. I think if you would have passed it today and put it on the city council, I think it would have gotten messy. At least this way, I think it'll be clean when you decide it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Any staff comments that would like to be made as we go back to it at the present time?
No comments.
Okay. I will adjourn the meeting at 7:25.